Check podcasts.
The Bread and Butter Collective is a collection of hospitality professionals working together to help strengthen our industry to build strong culture, community, and sustainability.
I'm Calen McNeil.
And I'm Sam Jones. And this is the Bread and Butter Podcast.
Welcome to the Bread and Butter Podcast. How are you, Sam?
I'm doing really good, Calen. How are you today?
I'm doing good. A little punchy today, actually.
Are you? Wow, that's a role reversal. I'm feeling pretty mellow, and you're punchy. Wow.
Yeah, well, and I was just commenting about your hair. It looks like unusually kept.
Wow, it's unusually unkept,
Yeah.
actually. I don't have a hat on, so you can
Why do you?
see it.
I've seen it way worse than this.
Oh, God.
Yeah.
I had a haircut
Like almost every day
a couple
I see it
weeks ago,
worse.
and it was the best thing I've done in a long time.
Yeah, and your beard looks good. Is the coffee dried out of it since you last poured a coffee?
No, I haven't washed it since then. It's a flavor saver. They don't call it that for nothing.
No. How has everything been going? You been good?
Yeah, it's been pretty good. I'm kind of starting to look in the future about, the economic times we have coming up and the future of the coffee industry and cafes in particular. And I'm thinking people are going to start drinking coffee at home soon. And so I'm kind of pivoting right now to see how I can get into people's homes more directly.
Oh, like direct to consumer.
Yeah.
I love that. I've got a friend who does that in Kelowna, and he's having some success. He's a roaster as well.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
Oh.
I never.
No.
I think I've maybe talked to you about him before, but
well, you might
we'll
have
talk
to
some more.
connect us.
Yeah,
But yeah, it's really cool. So me and my wife are doing the Mitchosen Farmers Market.
Yeah, I saw that.
And it's been so fun.
You get to see people. And,
I see all my neighbors and people who I should be seeing more of probably. And it definitely gets coffee into people's houses.
Oh,
it's amazing.
Awesome.
Yeah.
Well, then you can perhaps get leads for doing direct. They could you could just ship it to them.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
Well, if they're in Mitchosen, I'll just deliver.
I mean, you've got
it in
great
my car.
branding too, and your packaging is sharp and.
It's very Mitchosen right now. It feels good.
Yeah, it feels. Yeah, I love it.
Yeah, I've been spending lots of time in the garden, wanting to be there right now. Well, not right now. In an hour, I want to be there.
Yeah, get out there.
Yeah, and are you gardening at all?
No. We have a nice, beautiful garden, but I'm thinking about it. I like this idea of getting into the dirt, and I've been spending a lot of time at the Fed Urban Agriculture garden, and I mean that's for growing food. Which I think maybe I want to do that, is maybe grow some food.
Well, I think growing food, it helps feed the soul and your stomach.
Yeah.
And actually working in the garden, having your hands in the dirt is really, really good for you mentally, physically. I mean, I've been sore, but I feel good. And just having my hands in the dirt is like helping me relax and just
So it's good for your mental health.
Really good for my mental health.
See, we got a really good segue.
You like that?
That was really good.
Yeah. Ginger, did you like that segue?
Right away I thought grounding. He's talking about grounding.
We're joined today with Ginger Henderson. Describe who you are, Ginger. We've had you on our show before. Talk to us about your practice and what you do and where you are.
Yeah, I am Ginger Henderson of Ginger Henderson Counseling Services in the Royal Oak Plaza, Victoria. I've been a therapist for almost 12 years now, and I do a lot of work with, people who are going through trauma, a lot of couples counseling. That's sort of one of my niches. I supervise counselors as well, which is one of my big passions. I absolutely love sort of teaching therapists how to be therapists. And yeah, I work with a bunch of wonderful counselors in my office as well as online. And I love doing this podcast with you guys because you're a hoot.
We are a hoot. Are we a hoot?
We're a hoot. So my mom says.
Yes.
When we were talking last in COVID, you were taking clients in their cars in the parking lot, weren't you?
Yeah.
How have we moved on since then? Does that happen anymore? I guess not. Huh?
You know what? Actually, well, it's really interesting because I didn't do a lot of online work or distance counseling before COVID. Everybody came into the office, and it was really quite interesting having to change and not see people in person when we were in lockdown, and how many people actually kept doing that. So now I have quite a bit of my practice people who have decided they want to stay home and just chat with me from there. So I pivoted my, I do obviously still a lot of in person, but I switched, so now I have sort of 3 office days and 1 at-home day where I get all my at-home people, and I just chat with them there, so it's quite interesting to see that change.
Yeah, and I guess that would have been obviously direct result of COVID, right? And this, work from home and the Zoom and all that stuff. Do you find it as effective, like for you as a counselor?
I really do. I
Yeah.
think I wonder about, if you don't already have the ability to make rapport really quickly, then I can see the challenge. I think that when you just know how to, connect with people quickly and easily, it's fine. I do like to, I love when I've already known the person and then doing a phone session with them is fine. If it's a phone session, I would rather do like a Zoom to meet the person.
Yeah.
But some people like to talk on the phone. They don't want to have to look at their therapist, and you gotta get them a little bit more vulnerable that way, to believe it or not. They just sort of
Like just through the phone without the visual.
yes, yeah, because then
Interesting.
they don't have to worry about, what they're looking like, where they are. Yeah, I've had people in their car, I've had people in the bathtub. So, yeah, whatever works, right? I think whatever makes it accessible for somebody to come to therapy where they're in their highest comfort zone is the best place to do it. So whatever works for them works for me.
Well, for me, that sounds like it's perfect. A bubble bath,
I was
glass of
just thinking
wine,
of
some
that.
candles, and a little bit of therapy. I feel better already.
Right? And that won't be on Zoom, Sam. That
Yeah.
Oh no!
Exactly.
That's on the landline, huh?
Yeah.
Okay.
I was like, yeah, Ginger would be quickly on your shenanigans for sure. It's like, okay, no more Zoom. You're banned from Zoom. Block.
But it's my comfort place.
That's where you. Yes.
That's where I feel best,
You-
most comfortable.
Turn the camera.
I actually envisioned you saying the exact thing.
Did you?
Yeah, I did
And you
envision you
didn't
in the
stop
bubble
me.
bath, but no, because I wanted it to see if my prediction was coming true, and it was.
Yeah, you're getting to know me.
I'm getting to know you well, which is awesome. I remember when we talked last, you were, wanting to do this drop-in type of format, where making it more accessible. Like, where are you guys with that? I know COVID kind of put a wrinkle in that in your original plans, maybe.
It did, but not really, because we were only really locked down. We were kind of classified as an essential service after a little while, so we weren't really locked down for too long. So we could still do the drop-in counselors or counseling, but most of my counselors got so busy that they weren't able to put that in their schedule. So now what I do is I have some of those clients that I do or the counselors I do supervision with, who are still sort of gaining their hours. But they will do drop in here and there in the office kind of thing. But I have more accessibility for online counseling for people. So if people are struggling and they need to kind of find somebody quickly, I have a great list of people now that I can kind of say, here's a quick online counselor that you can work with. And again, because of COVID and people doing more online counseling, there's a lot of counselors out there that just do online.
Right.
Yeah. Yeah. So more online, I guess, would be the answer to that.
Yeah, and I guess are you finding is there enough counselors to meet the demand? As far as, is there like what's the capacity like?
In general, or just for my
Well, I guess both. Like in general, from industry, but then from your perspective.
In the industry, I feel like there's a lot of counselors out there now.
Yeah.
That I started, they kind of say it's a saturated market. There's a lot of counselors. So if you're looking for somebody, I feel like it's pretty easy to find somebody. And I think it's just, sometimes people will have a wait list and you can get on the wait list, that kind of thing. For me, like I said, I've got my kind of core counselors that are in the office they're pretty busy, but they usually will take people if they need it, they'll find space for them. And then I have that extra kind of layer of counseling that I can get people in online quite quickly now. So that's why I've kind of expanded the team to be even larger so that we can that's how this all started. I was working by myself for, almost 7 years. And then I couldn't take the caseload. It was just so overwhelming that I needed to expand and get this team going. And then that happened. And then now they're too busy. So I'm like, okay, I got to keep adding people.
Oh, fantastic.
So as your business grows, like your actual physical business, have you got a business plan to see you through it? Have you got, have you got goals? Right now, it sounds like you're training counselors and really enjoying that.
I am just really enjoying how it's expanding and gathering new people to work with clients and doing that supervision piece. But I don't really have sort of I'm going to get here. I think I just really enjoy it. It's just such a passion. It doesn't really almost feel, this is going to sound really funny and maybe corny, but it doesn't really feel like a business. It feels just more of like a passion and what I get to do. And I have to say, it's been, uh, I'm almost at 9,000 hours of sitting with people.
Wow.
And I just, there's still days I come home and I'm like, I get to do this like all day long. This is like yesterday I worked with 7 people, and I think about those 7 people on my drive home. I have this little ritual that I do on my way home where I kind of close each kind of case that I worked with and kind of send them this is really sounding hokey now,
No, it's good. I like your process.
but I just sort of send them, strength or whatever we just processed that day, and they don't even know I do this, but I kind of just do this little closing of the day, and I always kind of end with like, and I just got to sit with these people with this whatever they were processing. They're just, every hour is such a different hour of what people are processing and what I get to help guide them through. So yeah,
So that's kind of your mental health sort of exercise too, right? Because
yeah.
you need to defrag and not take that with you, right?
And what I kind of do when I do this closing, it's like I almost kind of close the book for the chapter for each client as I go home in my little drive home, and I live out in Machosen as well, so it's a little bit of a longer drive. I get to do this.
Nice.
Hello to Machosen. But I kind of do this, and then if there's anything that doesn't like, I can feel a pull. I am quite connected. Obviously, I have to be with my own personal self and my own body and what's going on. So if I feel something that's like, ooh, that doesn't feel like I can close it, then I need to do something more with it. So I have to kind of check in and make sure that, maybe that session was heavy for me as well, because we get triggered as therapists, or we feel like, oh, we should have done more. And so then I'll just sort of go home and make little notes about what was going on to bring back to that session the next time the person comes in, or if it's something for me that I need to do my own clearing. There's a lot of mental health stuff that we as therapists have to do in order to be able to sit with people throughout whatever it is that they're processing.
I couldn't imagine actually doing that. I mean, I think everybody does some counseling to their peers or friends or, unofficially support systems in your own network. But yeah, to deal with all the variety of issues day to day and still be able to function yourself, I think is a skill. Do you find it a skill, or is it like, is it hard work? Do you need to work at it?
Yeah, I mean, yes, I think when you're first starting,
Yeah.
you definitely work at it. I think a lot of it, I think there is a difference between people who are just naturally, this is naturally what I was supposed to do.
Mm.
It's who I am. It's definitely who I am. I don't actually find it very hard to do. I think in the beginning it was a little bit trickier. I think you have to know yourself really well, and you have to be able to be open to doing your own work before you can really be an effective therapist. Though you have to really do your own work. You can't just go into it because you want to. You have to know that what it's going to take. And I think that's why I really enjoy teaching and doing the
Mm.
super, because I get to, like, today I'll have a group of 5 counselors who are all quite new, and I get to kind of guide them and talk about this stuff with them so that they're supported in their journey. Whereas I didn't really have that in the beginning. Supervision wasn't as big, and so it wasn't as common to do kind of groups like that and have someone kind of guide you. So I kind of had to do it myself. Yeah.
When you say you're supervising other counselors, is that just you and the counselors, or are you supervising their sessions?
No, so I just
Okay.
do with me and the counselors, and so I'll do one-on-one and then group. And sometimes, like, let's just say I'm working with a counselor, and I'm noticing, oh, there's an approach that they maybe are stuck on or something. I will get them to, obviously with full consent, audio tape a session with a client. And some clients don't want to, and that's totally fine. But if a counselor is, close enough with their client, they might say, my supervisor wants me to just, and then I can go over it and sort of pick out things that they maybe need some help with.
Okay.
It just kind of like, qualities that make good counseling, like the fundamentals, right? So you're
Yeah,
just trying to make them better counselors
yeah,
effectively.
yeah, for sure.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Now, have you noticed a shift in what people are coming to see you about? Not you specifically, but your team, I guess, like on issues. Like obviously, I know through COVID there was a ton. I know that from our staff, and when we have staff, we have a benefits program, and when we have staff that need extra mental health supports, I actually refer them to you and your business and your company, and they've loved that experience. So and I don't know, and we don't need to get into what are they? What's that person? Or
Do they ever talk about me?
No, yeah, no, never. Are they happy at Big Wheel? No. Are they happy with their boss? No. Is there a shift in because I imagine there's like obviously the initial impact of the COVID, the post impact, and then now we're kind of back to normal, if you can call this normal. And are you noticing different sort of themes going through as, is there anything that you've taken from that?
The one thing that I can say that stands out is that we have now finally had more men come to therapy 5 years than ever was before. So thank you for men realizing that it's okay to come and safe, great place to just talk about your stuff. Like I have really noticed since my beginning, and maybe it's not even really to do with COVID, but just in the beginning, how many male clients I had compared to now. And I just think that it makes me so happy when we've got, sometimes I'll walk out to the foyer to greet a client and the whole foyer is men.
Oh, that's
Like,
amazing.
hey, finally, you're here. So, but about themes, no, there's such a variety. Like I
Still the
said,
same issues.
yeah, and yeah, it's just every counselor is dealing with, such different stuff. Family issues, in-laws, couples, parenting, anxiety, trauma. A lot of people are realizing what trauma is now and how it should body. And so there's just a lot of learning. I think there's, of course, there's the difficulty of online stuff and how it can affect our mental health, but there's also a lot of great awareness that has happened because of online stuff that we are now people are being able to hear. And, you've got 20-year-olds that are hearing more things online about how and normalizing some of the things that they're going through instead of thinking alone now. So it's just, yeah, there's not really one theme I can say is sticking out, but people getting help, people talking about it has really, really grown, which is amazing.
Yeah, I think access and awareness is huge, and especially on the male piece, and often, and it's funny because I went to somebody bought me a Reiki session. I actually
Okay.
thought it was Rolfing.
Oh,
So I was I was like expecting to get this deep tissue massage, but I walked in with all these, dream catchers and crystals, and I was like, this might be different. But I was like very open to it. And obviously it's very different than counseling, but it's, energy reading and things like this. But her comment to me after was that in 20 years, she's only had 3 male clients. And I thought, oh my, because because I've been going to a psychologist for 30 years. I was in a traumatic accident, or I OD'd on morphine when I was going for a knee operation years ago. So through that whole process, I met a psychologist, and I've been literally going since that happened, 30 years. But I've had this little like roadblock, and I found the Reiki kind of opened up a path that I was just like, it really unblocked me. And then I went to my psychologist and was like, had all this newfound energy and awareness, and I found it very complimentary. But speaks to that point about men unwilling to open up. And her point was that, when she does the readings and she's talking about what her vision is, and they're not open to talking about it or to accessing that with her. So there's that wall. And I know you do a lot of couples counseling. Are you finding that the awareness piece of men is it easier to do that, or has it changed or shifted over the last 5 or 6 years?
Yeah, there's just more of an openness to, one thing that and a lot of people struggle with this, and I don't ever want to be gender specific, but one thing I've noticed over the years with some men is the difficulty of even just saying the word inner child,
Mm.
right? Because it sort of almost can feel demasculating or something when you
Yeah.
talk child. But now I am seeing so much more openness to understanding that your foundation of self is between those ages of 9 and 12 is where you learn all of what you believe, all your core beliefs, all that stuff gets set in you at that age, regardless of your gender.
Yes.
Now people are kind of going, oh, okay, so yeah, like all the things that my dad said to me and all the things that my mom and my siblings and my peers said to me and did to me at those ages are still in me. And they show up when I'm having a fight with my spouse or when I'm feeling like she's irritated me or feeling like she's not hearing me or whatever. And so what I think we're realizing is that it's all the same. It doesn't matter what your genders are. It's just that there's been so much difficulty put on men that you are supposed to keep that in, or
Yeah.
it's like anger's okay but crying's not, like all of those messages that you guys were given unfortunately at such a young age has kind of put those roadblocks into that healing, and now we're seeing that release for many of you.
I think that's amazing.
Yeah, I mean, there's always been a real stigma
Yeah.
for men to get help or to admit that they do need help. So
Well,
I'm
and I
happy
guess
to
it's
hear
the
that
peer
that's
base too,
changing.
because it's never really been a safe spot to even share with your friends. Like I think about my friend group. I mean, I have a bit of a different friend group, so I feel like they're a little bit more open. But I think in general, men are very like trying to be masculine and trying not to show their feelings, like you say. And it's such a like through my journey in discovery too, because I probably was a lot like that before I started on my path. To figure out stuff. And throughout the process, I've had so many little breakthroughs that are just like, wow, how did I live with that for so long? Now that I kind of see it and can hold it and touch it and look at it, and then how it's benefited. And it's not obviously. My wife says, "Man, she can't believe I've gone through so much therapy and I'm still so messed up." But I'm like, "Well, you should have seen me before, right?" By that sort of awareness piece and understanding, which is then the beginning of the journey to try to figure it out, right?
And I think the other thing too is that we have to remember we all have a nervous system that runs through us. And in our nervous system, it holds all of our experiences. And, one of the best titles of a book ever is called The Body Keeps the Score.
Mm.
And that is just such a true, there's no truer statement. But if we think about it, your nervous system is the exact same as my nervous system, regardless if it's male or female.
Yeah.
So if I try to really explain that to my couples when they come in, is that you have a nervous system that's holding all your experiences, and you have a nervous system that are holding all of your experiences. And when there is a conflict or there is unmet needs, it's in those nervous systems is what we have to really kind of focus on to start to calm down, to figure out, to listen to hear, to empathize with. Like that's where it all starts, right?
So interesting.
It is. You were talking about the inner child and that being from about age 9 to 12. I'm wondering if you're seeing the results of COVID and how that influenced children of that age now that we're a few years past. I don't know if you work with many kids, but are you seeing or hearing in the industry about how they coped and how they're continuing to live now?
I don't work with young kids anymore. I think now that my kids are adults, I'm good. Keep it going.
Yeah.
Uh, but so I don't. But one thing that I could almost just imagine just by working with adults who were children at some point, we kind of look at the idea of what that could have done to kids at that age. And I think the biggest thing that stands out for me is there was so much uncertainty at that
Mm.
time that the parents themselves would have been feeling so much anxiety because when we just don't know what's going on in the world. Like there were some really scary points in the beginning where we didn't know what was going to happen and what that was going to look like, and just so much fear that I couldn't imagine those kids that were in that age group that understood that there was something going on in the world wouldn't have a dysregulated nervous system.
Mm.
So that can change to attachment issues. Maybe they only felt safe being with mom or dad, and so now they don't want to go to school. There's probably a
Right.
lot. If I was a parent with kids that went through COVID, that were aware that there was a big scary thing happening in the world, I would be really wanting to work on their nervous system, their ability to self-soothe, their ability to have security in their own independence. That would be the topics I'd be kind of focusing on as a parent.
Oh, that's
It's interesting to think
nice.
about how that will impact the workforce and business people and entrepreneurs like us as they move forward. Like,
Yeah.
what is there any benefits to that? Like, to think, how you think of these. I always go back to like Microsoft and Apple and Dell and all these people in that critical time in their lives where they're forming their businesses, and they got access to library space and computer spaces for free, which is what they just had this, talk about 10,000 hours. They had all these hours of free time on the computer, the big computer system, which actually is a big reason why they're so successful all at the same time. They're all around the same age. They all started around the same time, and they're all billion-dollar corporations. So I always go back to these pockets of incidents like the Great Depression or, World War II, World War One, Vietnam. Yeah. There's always a byproduct of society that comes out of it, because the people that come out of it are the ones that are your future leaders. They're your teachers. They're all of these things. And it just makes me think, okay, we could talk about the negative side of the, which is real, the anxiety and all of that. I wonder if there's anything positive that comes out of it,
Yeah, I mean, when there's such a struggle, a united struggle, I think we can maybe think of resilience, because the first thing I think of, like, we came out of that. We went through it, we figured it out. We didn't know what we were doing, but we all came out okay, for the most part. And so it's like, okay, well, maybe it's the resilience that these young kids might come out with, and sort of knowing that they went through that hardship and they had to be patient and be calm and figure the things out. And I think the one thing for me personally, that I think that a lot of my people in my circle, what happened for us is just understanding what was really important.
Prioritizing.
Yeah, like nothing. It was only family. Like, I remember when Bonnie Henry said, you can hug your mom for Mother's Day. That was the best day I've ever had in my life. We didn't even do anything,
Contact.
yeah. So, just little things like that. I think it was really important. But
What do you think, Sam?
Well, I think it was. I think the lockdown, the procedures that happened through COVID were really detrimental to a lot of kids. I've got a few kids, so I can see their friends as examples.
Yeah.
But like, if you were in grade 12, when the lockdowns happened, you have no ending to your 12 years of school. That you have always had expectations.
Yeah.
You go to school, you graduate, you do something else. And I'm seeing, maybe not in a lot of my kids' friends, but in some for sure, that they're really struggling to move past like that grade 12 year, even though it may have been 3 or 4 or 5 years ago now, right? And all of that, I think, is going to slow down child's development moving into adulthood. And I think that their expectations of what life was going to be if they did this and this and this, like they're told, is going to work out like this, and it's not working out like that. And I'm concerned about them in the future.
It's almost like the balloon getting popped. I can imagine, because I think back when we were growing up and how much weight there was on graduating and what happens after and college and building your life and all of this. And I know from my experience with probably the last 5 years with staff and their sort of like disregard to resume building, so it's sort of like that look to the future, that planning, that sort of thing, and I wonder if that was a byproduct of that process, because they literally couldn't think of anything in the future because they didn't know if it was going to happen. They didn't even know if they're going to graduate. And now, is that a byproduct of their work life too? And they're like, I mean, I have people like, who just don't show up or just quit. And I'm like, on paper, they're good workers. The majority of the time they showed up, but then they're just like, if you discipline them or you're going to write them up or whatever, they'll just go, oh, I'm just going to quit. And it baffles me that, and then there's another generation below that kind of would be like, 12 to 15 or 12 to 16 right now. That is totally different. It's like a completely different cohort. So they would have been, like 5 to 10 or 11 going through COVID. And they're like, they have work ethic. They have it's remarkable actually, which is and obviously I want to be careful not to over allocate importance of these incidences, but I think there's something, those types of things predict the future,
trajectory for a lot of people, for many, and people will take them and do kind of, and I think it's in the environment of their home, how the parents handled the situation, what their kids' own sort of outlook was, right? Like some kids might have thought, oh, this is great, we're all staying home, this is it. And other kids might be like, woe is me, this is horrible, this is the worst thing that ever happened to me. So you just never know how things are handled as well. And not, it's that was a lot of pressure for parents. I think I couldn't imagine. My kids were older, obviously, so didn't have the pressure of how to handle them as parent. They'd already graduated, all that. I couldn't imagine right during COVID. I think that would have been just so much added stress.
Well, you think about it, you think about your future, but then you're now thinking about the kids' future and the impact. And I think as a parent, I'm not a parent, but as a parent, you carry all your kids' hopes and dreams with you, right?
Sure. And I think it was really a hard thing for couples. I know that during COVID, my couple, like I say, I do a lot of couples counseling, but it escalated. That was the thing that escalated the most for me, for my business, was couples coming in, because it was just so difficult for them to figure out how to navigate being kind of stuck in the house and doing the things that they couldn't do. A lot of couples do really well because they can travel, and that's when they feel the closest to each other. They couldn't do traveling, and there was just a lot of separations happened after COVID for sure.
Yeah. Like I guess like separations from a lack of like just incompatibility, or separations like, man, if life's over, I'm gonna do what I want to do.
I think there was a variety of things, but I think the biggest thing I saw was, okay, now it's just us, and I don't know if I really like you, and I don't know if this really works. And a lot of people coming in going, now we're kind of stuck, let's really figure this out.
Yeah, which I think is inspiring. Like, to me, if you just give up without putting the work in, then you've kind of wasted it all, in my mind, a bit. Like, I think if you're unhappy, then try to do the work, try to seek support, try to seek counseling, try to figure it out. At least then you can move forward without any regrets. But I also think that if you think about how much energy is put when a relationship dissolves, and it could be through legal, through arguing, through whatever, and when you obviously love this person at some point, you obviously could communicate at some point, why not try to navigate it in a way? So I think counseling could help that a lot. I would think, even to dissolve, like regardless, of, it's not going to work out, but maybe seeking a counselor to, talk through some issues. Do you notice that? Is that something?
I mean, not all couples that come into couples counseling, unfortunately, make it.
Yeah.
Sometimes that is where they come and they try, and we do all sorts of strategies and homework things and things to try. And we talk about everything, and we get really, really, we dig deep, but sometimes it just isn't the right fit. And so then when exactly what you're saying, we kind of do all of that work and they come to the realization it's still not going to work. Then we go into that, okay, how do we sort of separate, and how do we move through this still on the same page? And I have had couples that have done that, and then they come back in for co-parenting counseling afterwards, and they're in so much better shape than the ones that just come in after, they've already split up and now they're trying to come in for co-parenting, but there's so much animosity and hurt feelings, and they can't do that work once they're separated, because they don't want to hear about the other person's.
And they don't. Yeah, there's all that, all those emotional things that are, tied into it. they're so quick to hire a lawyer. I'd be really quick to hire a counselor, you know?
Yeah,
and
help
just
smooth out the edges
yes,
of the
yeah,
separation and make it amicable as possible.
yeah, and even I mean, counseling and mediation. There's a lot of similarities in there as well.
I do what's called an intensive, like a couples intensive program that I put on for couples who are kind of really wanting to dig in deep, do it kind of at a faster rate. So it's sort of like over, we kind of come together and figure out a timeline for it. But I've had couples who have come in and they've done it within a 2 to 3 week period where we're doing long, like couple hours at a time, really doing the work to kind of get it all because they don't want to do it over a year. They
Yeah,
want to do and so it's an intensive program that I put together, and it's really helpful for them to kind of do the work and then, give a lot of homework so that in between sessions they're doing it's almost like a school program. It's like you're going to do this and but you only come to that intensive when you're ready to
ready
do
to
all.
like. But I guess both partners need to be ready. Like you
You don't have
can't.
to
Yeah.
people buy in, then you spend most of your time trying to convince the other person to buy in. So, one of the first things I ask my couples when they start with me is I want to know how big your desire is to make this work. So 1 out of 10, what is your desire level to fix this relationship? And what that really has to mean is I will look into everything of myself. I will do all my own work. I will, really work to empathize with my partner, what's going on for them. Like that's what I mean by how much work are you willing to do? And I ask them to be as honest as possible. And I've had sometimes where, one of the partners says I'm at a 2 and the other one says, oh, well, I'm at a 10.
Mm.
Okay,
Wow.
thank so, we're gonna really work on this the person that's the 2 and try to make sure that we're figuring out why are you a 2? Because usually that's gonna be resentment. They're gonna not know how to connect to their own emotions. There's a lot of other reasons why they're that 2, and so we have to do that work with them first. So if I get it where it's that spread out, then I usually will take that person that's at the lower number and just work with them for 1 or 2 sessions before we come back in as a couple.
Mm. Now I'm wondering if is there a business model to for for promoting and advertising a post breakup sort of counseling program where you can actually, rather than call a lawyer, you call a counselor.
Oh, lawyer, call me.
Yeah,
Yeah.
I'm like, I'd see that. You ever
Do
see
you
Better
want to
Call
hate
Saul?
your ex? Do you want to hate your ex and get all their stuff?
Yeah, exactly.
Call a lawyer. If you want to be peaceable and
Yeah.
get along with your ex,
And
go see a
save like
counselor.
tens of thousands of dollars.
Yeah.
I'm only going to charge you $1,000 an hour.
Right.
Sometimes I'm like, if somebody's like, oh, I want to open a restaurant, I'm like, okay, just give me like $300,000 and I'll give you back 50. Okay, and then don't.
And then don't do it.
Yeah. And I've saved you. Yeah, I've saved you a whole bunch of money and headache and time.
And then don't.
Yeah, and then don't. Yeah, you just will be $200,000 less, or $250 less, and you'll be a lot happier.
In couple counseling, how do you pick your favorites?
We need
I'm
to know
kidding,
the
I'm
names
kidding.
right now, Ginger. Who's your favorite?
It's just like parenting. We don't have a favorite.
Yeah, we love them all.
But just
sometimes
like
we have
parenting, secretly
yeah.
you do.
Sometimes we have an easier child, not a favorite, just an easier
Oh,
one.
I like that.
Yeah. And that changes throughout sessions.
Yeah. Do
Yeah.
you have any feelings about children, teenagers, and their attachment to their phones and to social media? And
Oh, that's a good
do
question.
you have any suggestions, or do you think it's fine? And is there a positive part of that, or do we need to start
the first-
watching that carefully?
We have to recognize is that it's not just a kid issue anymore. Most of us adults are also
Yeah.
addicted. I think what we really need to be aware of is it's a dopamine issue.
Mm.
And it's a hit of dopamine that we're all getting when we click on our phones. And I think, again, if I could go back to my kids' ages and if it was now where the phones are even more prominent, I would want to teach them about dopamine. I'd want to teach them about their brain and what's going on for them. I think if you're a parent and your kids are young enough to have that control, in the sense of what happens in your home, because I think once you kind of get to that 16, 17-year-old age, you don't really, it's a lot harder, let's just say, to have that sort of parental kind of control, or I hate to use the word control, but you know what I mean.
Yeah.
But if I had young kids, I would be very firm on phones. I would be
Right.
very, because they aren't aware of, what dopamine is and what happens when it's, something that we're burning out kind of thing. They don't understand that. So we have to do it for them.
So
So
if we get constant hits of dopamine from our phones, is it true that eventually we stop creating our own dopamine and are dependent on external sources?
we don't stop creating it entirely, but it stops being created for things that it should be created for. You know what I mean? So, you look at a sunset and you get that hit of
Mm.
dopamine. You're
Oh,
somebody that has a dopamine issue because you've been using it with an addiction or using it with phones or that kind of stuff. That sunset dopamine hit isn't as strong, if that makes sense.
yeah, it does.
Now, is there a because you hear the dopamine, and then I also hear what's it, cortisol? Like, I guess from stress, like when you're, and then you're doom scrolling and you're just like killing time. I when I get up in the morning, I would sometimes lie in bed for an hour, and I'd be pretending that I'm going through my emails and doing some work stuff, right? But then I'm just like blah, blah, and I'm thinking I got to stop this. And I think the connection to whether, because I see these things. Yeah, if your cortisol is high, then you're doing this, this, and this. And I'm like, tick all the boxes. I'm like, shoot, I'm not. And then it's like, if your dopamine's this, you do all this. I'm like, oh God, I do that too. Like, what am I'm in this some kind of cortisol dopamine like
Yeah.
battle.
Hot, cold
Yeah, yeah,
when you
exactly.
scroll, right?
Yeah.
And I think that entrenches those feelings even more when it's like just hit after hit after hit and they're opposite hits.
But I find, yes, and I find that knowing about the dopamine and cortisol stuff, it makes a difference to me because I've been able to separate for long periods of time. I'm like, okay, I'm off all this. I'm not even going to do. I'm just going to, when I'm awake, I'm just going to get up and I'll hit the gym, or because I go to the gym.
Yeah, me too.
You're gym buff.
Yeah, you can tell. You can tell. I know. You can tell. I mean, it's audio. If you're watching audio, the video, you can tell clearly I'm an athlete.
Yeah, I've got my gym bag out
Yeah,
front.
the gym bag's sweat. I got a sweat band. No, but just that whole idea of understanding why, and what is it doing? Because I think I don't want to be addicted to anything.
Right.
So
The kind of back to what I was saying almost in the beginning is the one thing I want everybody to really start paying more and more attention to is your nervous system. It is your body, paying attention to kind of what Sam was saying or in the beginning of being in the garden. That's grounding when your feet are in the dirt and you're just sort of being with nature. We have to go back to that and learn about how to connect to your physical self, your physical body. What is it needing? What is it saying? So that we can pay attention to when the cortisol is spiking. Because when the cortisol is going up, we then crave the dopamine. So that's why we scroll. The cortisol's up because we're overwhelmed. And so I think if we can pay attention to our window of tolerance, like where are we at? For me, my Thursdays, my cortisol is always higher because although I absolutely love what I do, that's the end. So at Thursday evenings are the end of my work week because I usually take Friday, Saturday, Sunday off. So I know that my cortisol levels are going to be higher. So I'm not going to go do a hit class, or I'm not going to go do something that's going to, be around a lot of people because my cortisol levels are higher. So I know that my doom scrolling is going to be higher on a Thursday than it will be on a Sunday. So if we could, can you see how that's just me really knowing my body and knowing what's going on and knowing my window of tolerance, right? So I think if we can start to pay more attention to our body, our breath, if we're holding our breath, if we're breathing properly, are we, you know what I mean? Is our jaws feeling tight? Like all of those things are indications that our cortisol levels are high.
I love that.
I'm just going through that going, oh, I wasn't breathing. And my jaw is clenched.
Oh, shit. But I think that self-awareness piece and just thinking about it, I mean, that's the start. Like if you're thinking about it, then you can start building a plan or a program that facilitates that. And also, I guess, accepting, like if you know your cortisol levels are high, so being okay with some scrolling, in that period to either bring that down through the dopamine or whatever, but then put it in a box and then go, okay. But when you're doing it constantly, I think that, like anything, if you overdo it, then fix it.
Yeah, For sure.
You know,
when you talk about our nervous systems holding trauma, I mean, I kind of understand what that means, but I have no idea if I start thinking about it how that works. Is there a good explanation or a good way to be thinking about how your nervous system actually holds onto things and then releases them?
Yeah, I think the one thing is, when you might get, you think of the last time you got really anxious or that trepidatious, that feeling in you where your heart's pounding and, your nervous system doesn't understand why you're feeling that way. And it could be because you're about to do an interview, or it could be because you're about to go into a meeting that you're nervous about, or whatever that is. But your nervous system kind of goes back to the first time it felt that feeling. So if you've had a trauma in your life and, something really horrible happened to you in younger part of you, that your nervous system then holds on to that, then you get that anxious feeling because you're going to do something that logically you're going to be fine. You're not being attacked, you're not in war, you're not whatever it's going on, but your nervous system doesn't know that. So I think the biggest thing for us to pay attention to is when, exactly what I was just saying, your heart rate is increasing, your jaw's being clenched, you're holding your breath, is to calm yourself down and remind yourself kind of mentally, but also in your body, why you're safe. So, even just if I'm sitting up like this talking to you guys and I'm off, my back is off the chair, my body's on alert right now. That's okay because I'm feeling okay. But if I was also holding my breath, my jaw's tense, I'm sweating, I'm nervous, my nervous system is telling me I'm on alert. Is there a bear? Am I getting attacked? What is happening for me? So if that was happening and I was feeling the effects of it, the first thing I'm going to do is I'm going to sit back down. And then I'm going to put my feet on the floor. And then I'm going to open my jaw up. And then I'm going to breathe. Then I'm going to take my temperature or my pulse. I'm going to feel my skin. I'm going to calm my voice down. And now my nervous system is going, oh, we're okay. All right. Now I'm going to walk into that interview, or I'm going to do that thing again. But you see how I just did all of that step?
I could feel. I
felt
could
it.
feel
Yeah,
you
I'm
doing
like,
all
chill
those steps.
now. Yeah.
That was.
So I want everybody to learn how to practice, because we go through our life like this half the time.
Yeah.
Most of us have trauma. Most of us have been through a lot of hardship, especially if you're at our ages, right?
Yeah.
The older you get, the more trauma you've had.
Yes.
Yeah. So when you're talking about the nervous system, you're not just talking about the nerves going through your body. You're talking about the brain. You're talking about how your brain stores trauma and memories. Is there something about our nervous system and the electricity that goes through it that plays a part in that? Because I do know when I go out and touch the dirt, I feel better right away. And that feels like a grounding in terms of I'm neutralizing my electrical field.
Yeah, that's exactly what you're right on it. And I don't know if maybe we've chatted about this before, but I think I try to explain it as that. I try to explain it as like an electrical force going down your body. And, of course, there's lots of different medical ways that we can explain it, but I like to explain it that there is that sort of electric charge going through you. And sometimes if you picture it like on, as if it's like that being hit by electricity, if there was lightning, what would it look like? And so if we can kind of pay attention to that's what it looks like, but also what does that feel like? And then if we can kind of feel that, the electricity's gone through and now it's calmed back down, just like I just did that exercise with you guys without you even knowing.
Yeah, it was awesome.
It was. So funny we both got that.
I know. I was just literally like, oh my God, this is great. Yeah. By that whole process, and I think it shows you how much control we actually have if we just, choose to take it, and choose to do it. We control it rather than having it control us.
Yeah. I'll give you one last exercise to try.
Yeah.
So
I like this.
I want you guys to close your eyes.
Okay.
I want you to scream internally your own name. Go. Like as loud as you can. Now, I want you to whisper the word elephant. Really quiet in your head. Were you able to do both those things?
I think I was. Yeah.
So you're able to control your thoughts.
Aha.
You're able to do it.
You tricked us. You tricked us into controlling our thoughts. Okay. Yeah.
I love that. I love it.
Yeah. Kind of mind.
Ginger, you are incredible. You're amazing. I know you've got to carry on with your wonderful work. But thank you for joining us on our podcast and sharing your insights.
Where can people find you if they need you? Is there somewhere they can reach out?
Just, you know what? If you Google Ginger Henderson Counseling Services, you'll find my website with lots of people to help you. And even some people that aren't even on the website yet. If people are needing help, we've got lots and lots of counselors that are able to support people. Instagram, I can't even remember my Instagram name. My daughter made it years ago. I think it's Ginger Therapist YYJ. I think
it is.
That's pretty good.
I think it is.
So I like to post helpful things like that. And we're here to help. And it was really great to talk to you guys. Anytime you want me on here, I love chatting.
You're awesome.
Okay.
That was once again amazing and insightful.
Yeah, thanks so much for your time. And I do miss seeing you.
Oh,
Well, you know where to find her.
I do, yeah.
Okay. Nice to talk to you guys. Have a great day.
Thanks,
You
Ginger.
too. Bye,
Appreciate you.
Ginger.
Bye.
Wow.
That's amazing.
Yeah.
Yeah. It was Ginger's incredible.
I mean,
Articulate.
Yeah.
Yeah.
In all honesty, through COVID, I was really struggling, and I did go to see Ginger after she was on her show, and so that really helped me out.
Yeah.
And just going to do that, going out to seek help, was really great, and I really appreciated our podcast for kind of highlighting.
Yeah,
someone that I could go do that with.
Yeah.
And it was really a good time of my life to go see her. So.
Well, and I think, I haven't seen Ginger, but I do see somebody. But I know people that I've sent to Ginger and they rave about her and her process. But I think anybody should be comfortable to go and talk about issues with. And I think, the male component of it is super important because obviously half the population's male and the other half is female. But if you really want healthy relationships in general, and you have one half who seems to be resistant or is predisposed to biases around it, where the other half is maybe more open to it. And it's not to say all women are, but I think, we speak in generalities here. So
I think they're kind of brought up to communicate more openly and that not to be so wrong. Whereas for men, we're taught that communication is something we don't have to do.
Yeah.
We can grunt and hit and do those
and
kinds of
it
things.
kind of like exposing your sensitivities is more of a weakness rather than a strength. And I think that's just BS.
Yeah. And, before I went to seek some counseling and someone to talk to, I was nervous.
Yeah.
Were
you afraid of? Were you afraid of?
I was afraid of myself.
Yourself, figuring out.
I was afraid
what was going to come out of it.
Much.
Yeah,
I was afraid.
Why? Were you I'm trying to understand.
Well, actually, I can't get into it because of client.
Well, you're the client,
I don't
so
think
you
Ginger
actually
would want me
to talk about her methods.
Yeah,
but were you I'm more curious about the thought process when you're going in, because it's been so long since I first went. I don't even remember what I was thinking at that time. But when you were going, were you afraid of what you're going to discover about yourself, or were you afraid you weren't going to be able to talk about your issues?
In part, yeah. So both those things, I would say that those were two big things. Excuse me. But what really pushed me was I kind of pictured I always picture myself as being there for other people. I'm boss,
of course.
Husband, father.
Yeah.
I feel like my position is to be there for other people.
Yeah.
And I've only had so much capacity to give to other people without draining from my own well.
Yes.
And so I picture myself as a tank, and my tank was overflowing, and I couldn't be there for the people I wanted to be there for and be helpful for them. Because even if I had 10% room on top of my tank, a bit of space, I want to give that space to my wife, to my kids, to my employees, to my management team. Those are people who depend on me to be healthy, sane, and productive.
Yeah.
And when my tank is too full, I can't be there for any of them, and I can't even be
now,
there
is it
for
too
myself.
full or is it too empty?
I always pictured
picture
it
it full.
as full.
Yeah.
You can picture it as empty too, depending
so
on
that's
what's
what
in
I'm
there.
just trying to figure out. You didn't have anything else to give.
I didn't have anything else to give, and I needed to free up some space.
Yeah.
I needed to empty my tank a little bit to free up some space so I could be more present for other people and for myself.
So now, was your tank full? Because I in my vision of it, mine's empty.
Okay.
Where I'm like, I have nothing left to give. Right. Yeah. So I love your glass half full or glass full.
I was going to say it's a glass issue.
Yeah, it's a glass issue.
And it's just perspective because we're saying
the exact same thing. Yeah.
Just
so
when
in my version it's empty, when your version is full. So what was filling it? Like for you? Like what, like the fact that you're giving it to all these other things, or were you selfish in taking it for yourself?
I needed at the time. We were going through COVID and business closures and stuff, and it was a lot full of myself. Yeah, a lot full of uncertainty,
like your own fears,
my own fears, and my own doubts about myself, my ability to navigate through it. Yeah, all of those things, my ability to be there for other people, I was questioning as well. Yeah, and at the time, I it was really, really important for me to be available. Yeah. And I really wasn't feeling I could be available. And so that's really what triggered me to go, okay,
seek some help.
My responsibility is to heal myself so I can be there for other people.
Yeah.
And so I don't know. That's what pushed me over.
Yeah. I love that picture. And I think that it's not uncommon.
No, it's not at all.
Yeah. And in particular, when there's periods of crisis, and whatever that crisis is all individual, and it's how you take it. I know, for me, having this constant sort of like period, and my wife tells me I've been seeing this same psychologist for 30 years, and she's like, well, maybe you should get other, and I'm like, no, she knows me, I'm comfortable, and maybe I should, and that's what I did, the Reiki thing, which I highly recommend. It was like, and I've recommended it to a bunch of other people, men and women, and they both had similar experience. They all had similar experiences as I did.
My wife just became a certified Reiki healer.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
Oh, wow. Yeah, so, you know full well about it then.
Yeah.
Yeah. Does she? But she can't read you. Does she?
We haven't got there yet. She can read me in so many other ways. I don't need to be laying down. For her to read me.
Yes. You don't need to be played.
We're pretty tight, and
she I didn't realize that. Oh, that's interesting. Yeah. It's so cool. I have a whole new, I feel like my world's been opened, by being exposed to that. And I'm open to a lot of different things, but I think anything that can kind of, navigate you down the road of balance and health, whatever that means to you is important. But just at first recognizing, acknowledging that, you may need help is sort of like the starting point. Yeah. And then trying to access what that is to you, like what you respond to, I know you went to Ginger and had a very good experience. And I think, it's all about the period of time you're in, because then you'll get out of it. But having that sort of baseline support and knowing it's there, because now if you ever get into that situation again, you're going to know, okay, this is what helped last time.
I was almost there a couple months ago. Actually, I was thinking, man, my tank is getting really full again, and I was able to release it on my own. Yeah, just with the tools that I've gathered over the years. And it's always good to be able to go get help. It's also nice to, having gotten the help before, not having to depend on it again, because I've learned enough to get through patches.
Well, and I think that's
it's
part
not
of
going
it.
to be through all patches.
No.
There's going to be a time when I'm going to need to talk to someone for sure.
But could you imagine all those years that you could have probably leaned on some support and helped and sped up that process and maybe shallowed out those big divots, that you go through.
I would be breathing easier. My jaw would
that whole exercise was so cool because I was just, and I kind of thought what she was doing at the time, but I was like, man, that really helped. I felt way calmer after she did that, declench your jaw and just that whole process. But it shows you how powerful each of us are.
It's
that
true.
We could actually bring ourselves down from this heightened thing,
Yeah, I always when talking about, I'm going to lose my train of thought. I'm sorry. It's because I can't keep anything straight. Nothing straight. But when I talk about why I think it's important to go get help, I totally lost my analogy.
Yeah.
Oh my God. I'm sorry. I really did have a good analogy for you.
Well, you had the segue earlier, so you could do no wrong.
Okay,
today.
Perfect. That was a good segue.
I love it.
I've been listening to a lot of other podcasts, listening to their segues.
Oh, I love that. You've been doing some work.
Some segues.
I love it. Well, I think that was a good episode.
Yeah, it's always nice to be in touch with yourself and.
I love it. I think it's
I know what it is.
What is it? Okay, go.
You need to take care of yourself before you take care of other people because that's just
like put your oxygen mask on
like
first.
Putting your oxygen mask on first. I should have just asked you what my analogy was.
Yeah, I would have told you because it's like we're married.
When the plane's going down, make sure you take the oxygen mask first so that you can help other people. And that's how I was thinking when I went in to get help. Is like, damn, I need to take that oxygen mask now.
Yeah. Well, and I think as when you're sort of leading a company or you have other people relying on you, you think we've all got employees and we've all got team members that, are relying on their paycheck and their work health to us as the leaders of the company. So if we don't have our head on straight or we're dealing with issues, then it's going to be really hard to help others. And it's also going to be really hard to navigate through those things. Cause I think through that particular period, nobody really knew what the heck was happening or going on, but it felt lonely.
It really did feel lonely, didn't it, for a while?
So getting help, I think is the message of the day. Get some help. Yay.
Well, I'm going to go.
And feeling good about it.
Yeah. I'm feeling good about it. And just keeping calm.
Yeah. And chilling and getting off the social media, or at least understanding what you're doing and why.
I love that, talking to your kids about dopamine.
I thought that was a great insight.
That really is. I'm gonna see if I can do that.
Well, and then how
to spell dopamine first. I know
and the cortisol component, right? Because high cortisol levels, it's indicative when you're daydreaming and you're like you're just trying to kill time. You're literally, it's not like you're bored. You're literally trying to balance out your cortisol.
And maybe the algorithm knows that there's a on-off there.
Of course it does.
So it gives you so much dopamine and cuts you off and gives you cortisol.
Yeah, then it
just knows
stuff.
When you want more, and it holds you off for a little bit more, and then it gives
exactly. It's controlling. I just don't like being controlled.
No.
Right? Like it's just something that so if I'm told about something that's controlling me, then I'm like, whatever it is, I don't want it. Right? So that's where I really connect with the cortisol and the dopamine component. And that's when I'm doing it. I've been doing, I guess I've been high stress. Like, I feel like I've got a little bit of like I was thinking, man, do I have a lung thing? Because I feel like I've got a little anxiety.
Well, angina going on?
No, I don't think it's angina. Because I obviously, at my age, I'm thinking, man, am I having a jammer always? But then there's things in high cortisol, and I'm like, man, I just went on a really long holiday. I feel great, like generally speaking. But in the last week, I feel like I've have an amped up heart rate and then breathing, because I've been doing more exercise, trying to keep up with my elite fitness regime, which I don't have, but I'm going to pretend I do. I'm feeling like my lungs it's not just weak lungs. It feels like and then I'm thinking, man, is it anxiety? Because that kind of like plays, where you're shortness of breath.
Yeah.
So I'm thinking maybe I'm just anxious, but
Are you doing your early morning swims again? Have you got
no,
back to that?
I've been doing it like once a week, but I actually bought a cold plunge.
Okay.
So that I could do it because the ocean's a little bit too warm.
Okay.
I mean, it's still cold, but it's also depending on the tides. If it's low tide, it's really kind of mucky in there. So being consistent with it, because I do think, and that's another balancer for cortisol and the dopamine component of it. And the dopamine actually rush, somebody told me that it's similar to like cocaine, but it lasts longer. So and this is what they told me. I don't know this from personal experience. 10 minutes is what cocaine high, sort of like the peak of it is. And
unless you get the good German,
I guess I don't know. I don't know anything about it.
I don't either.
But and I'll deny it if anybody says I do. But the cold plunging component of it can like the high that you get from that, the dopamine hit you get that from that, could be up to 3 hours.
I can see that. Yeah.
So, and I know that from when I do it, I'm super active for hours after. Like I'm just like,
Well, you're just trying to get warm again.
Well, your body, and that's it. But your body gives a reaction to that. So, I think, for me, I love it, and that's why I invested in my own plunge, so that I could have it at the right temperature, but do it every day. So I'm just waiting. I've got the tub, and they gave me this like sauna too, which was included in it, I guess. So I'll try maybe the sauna as well. But
it included a sauna?
Yeah.
What?
Well, these things are not cheap.
Is it a tent?
Well, it's like it's like a stand up. I haven't set it up yet because I'm still waiting for the cooler part of it, and because I'm going away for a couple weeks, and it's not here yet. So I'll wait till the actual cooler comes. Then when I get back, I'll start doing it daily, which I think will be good. But I think I know when I was doing it regularly, I dropped about 10 pounds.
Wow.
Right. So, and I think it's that fat around your liver and all your organs that goes because of the shivering. Huh. That's what I'm thinking.
Your quivering liver?
Yeah. Well, it's just like literally like your body is like shaking for hours after because you're trying to warm up. Like you get close to hypothermia when you're doing it.
I got one of those belt shaker things from the 50s.
You've gotta get a video of that. Because that would be too much.
If I actually had one.
I know. That's it.
I hear that.
I like the vision of it.
Smoking a cigarette or something. I'm losing weight. That's why I've got my gym bag outside.
Yeah,
it's full of cupcakes.
Well, it's interesting, like fast forward 10 or 15 years, because obviously the cold plunging, like I'm sure like the Finnish and whatever, the Swedish or somebody over in Scandinavia has been doing it forever.
Sure.
So they've maybe known the benefits. But now, obviously, since COVID and Joe Rogan does it, then everybody's doing it. Yeah. But I know from my own personal experience that I get a lot out of it. Mm-hmm. So, and that's my perspective, but I wonder like how the science of it will play out over time.
I'm sure it'll be really good.
Yeah.
It'll be positive for sure.
I would think. I would think, but
I think the ocean is a good grounding tool too.
Well, that's the other
electrical charge in the ocean. All the salts in it are really grounding, like dirt is. So is the ocean. So I don't know if you add some kind of salts to your cold pool.
No, that's an interesting thing.
Or just attach a car battery to the bottom of it, or is that how that works?
Yeah.
It's an alternator.
Calen dies of electrocution
through faulty advice from his
podcast partner tells him to plug in a battery to ground him.
No toast in the bathtub.
Yeah, no toast in the bathtubs. Yeah. So I'm interested to see how it all plays out over time, but I'll let you know. And if you ever want to do a cold plunge, you can just come to my place.
I love cold plunge. I'm actually pretty good at like holding my own in them.
Yeah.
I haven't done very many, but James Bond used
to. I know James Bond.
You know James Bond.
Yeah, of course.
Sorry, Bond.
James Bond.
Yeah, everyone knows him. But did you know that his routine when he was having a shower, and I copied this for a couple of years. You gradually get it as hot as you can take it.
Yeah.
Like just so it's steaming off.
Yeah.
You're getting red, and then you turn it just right onto as cold as it can get. And that change of temperature, that sudden change of temperature, does your lymphatic system really well. It does the same kind of thing as a cold plunge. You're going from extreme. So and James Bond would do that all the time, supposedly.
Really?
Yeah, and
like in the movie?
No, in the
or
books,
the actor.
I think.
Oh, the
think
books. Okay,
I think it's more
because it's a
of
fictional character, right?
Yeah, right. You just keep thinking that, Calen. You go ahead.
Dumb Calen with his dumb ideas. Oh,
I'm just glad he's dead and can't hear you say that.
Yeah, exactly. Oh my God. Now I'm going to Google whether James Bond's actually a person or not. I'm pretty sure he's not.
Yeah, well, he's a combination of characters from Ian Fleming's real life.
Oh, I didn't know that.
He was high up in the
M16 or M15 or whatever the hell, M7. Oh, interesting. So maybe it's autobiographical.
Parts of it are, and parts of it are drawn from people he actually knew.
Oh,
yeah, which is actually really interesting to go down that rabbit hole.
Yeah, no, I'm gonna actually do that. So that was good.
It's fun. In the meantime, and in between time, you have a great day.
And you be real kind, Sam.
I will. You be really nice.
You. It's really good to see you today.
It's a pleasure. Cheers.
Love you, brother.
Love you too, man. Take care.
Cheers.
Bread and Butter Collective's membership includes the following local businesses: 2% Jazz, Bunny's Kitchen, Buzz Coffee House, Eagle-Ite, Big Wheel Burger, Blue Mountain Solutions, Bodega Tapas Wine Bar, Eva Schnitzel House, Farmsgate Foods and Catering, Victoria Chocolate and Company, Drum Roaster Coffee, Habit Coffee, Foo Asian Street Food, the Culinary Arts Program at Camosun, Cafe Fantastico, Fall Epi, Harold Street Brewworks, Hey Happy, House of Botang, Nikkei Ramen Ya, Jenny Marie's Cracker Company, La Pasta, La Rue Patisserie, Mocha House, Part and Parcel, Poco a Pinto Bar, Pizzeria Prima Strada, Keating Pizza, Roast, Table 9 Consulting, Sherwood Cafe and Bar, Sweets by Selena, The Collective Wine Bar and Kitchen, The Drake, Tapa Bar, The Nimble Bar Company, Ruth and Dean, The Whole Beast, The Wienery, Spoon's Diner, Truffles-Inspired Catering, and Zambries.
To hear more from the Bread and Butter Collective, go to checknews.ca/podcasts on Check Plus, or find us on your favorite podcasting platform.